Welcome, Brenda. This friend, colleague, scientist really needs no introduction. I think most of you need her. Brenda has been in this business for longer than I have, and she's world renowned. She's a plant-based nutrition pioneer and internationally acclaimed speaker. She has authored and co-authored 13 books with nearly 1 million copies in print in 15 languages. Her latest book, Plant Powered Protein, was hot off the press in April 2023. Brenda was the lead dietitian in diabetes intervention research in the Marshall Islands. She also developed a nutrition education curriculum for kindergarten through sixth grade kids and trained teachers in all public schools. Was inducted to the Vegetarian Hall of Fame in 2007, and in 2022, she received the Plantrition Project's Luminary Award.
Well, I'm excited to share this presentation with you. What I was asked to talk about really was plant-based nutrition essentials. I want to just very briefly review what is an optimal plant-based diet. And it's essentially a diet that promotes health and minimizes the risk of death and disease. And so that we'll give a quick overview of that. And number two is nutritionally adequate at every stage of life. And that will be more our focus of this evening. So let's start with plant-based diets and disease risk. In Epic Oxford, ischemic heart disease was 22% lower among the lacto-ovo-vegetarians and vegans. Hypertension was actually 55% lower among lacto-ovo-vegetarians in the Adventist Health Study too. And for vegans, it was 75% lower. Diet quality matters. So whole food plant-based diets are high quality diets. They're rich in protective dietary components like fiber and phytochemicals. Diets rich in ultra-processed foods, fast foods and fried foods are low quality diets, whether they're plant-based or omnivorous. And so ensuring adequacy is about choosing high quality food, providing a sufficient quantity of food, ensuring a wide variety of food, and including reliable sources of all essential nutrients. And sometimes that means the addition of supplements and for some fortified foods, protein, first of all. Of course, anyone who is consuming a plant-based diet will have been asked at some point by someone, can you get enough protein from plants, or where do you get your protein? So how much protein do people actually need? Teens need about 0.85 and adults need about 0.8. This is the RDA for protein. And this is based on a specific reference body weight shown in red to the left here. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the number of grams of protein we need per day is actually based on your healthy body weight, not your actual body weight. Many people wonder, do we need more if we're eating a plant exclusive or vegan diet? And there is no separate RDA for vegans, but fiber and other components in plants, such as tannins and trypsin inhibitors and things like that, can reduce protein digestibility. So for those eating very high fiber, whole food plant-based diets, some experts suggest adding 10% to the RDA. One of the other things people often are surprised by is that plant-based athletes can meet protein needs just by ensuring a variety of protein-rich choices with meals and snacks and sufficient calories. And studies actually show that plant and animal protein sources are equally effective in promoting muscle gains or muscle hypertrophy when plant protein ingestion is sufficient. And that's usually about 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. Many doctors will say, well, I've never seen a case of protein deficiency. I can tell you I have many times. And the symptoms of protein shortfalls are skin fragility, hair loss, brittle nails, muscle weakness, fatigue, inability to fight infection, poor wound healing, long recovery times, and mood changes. Getting enough protein really means including one protein-rich choice with each meal. It could be beans, lentils, or split peas, tofu, tempeh, edamame, or other soy foods, veggie meat, nuts, or seeds. We want to include some lower fiber choices in the mix, like tofu, soy milk, peanut butter, and select plant-based milks with more protein if possible, like soy milk, for example. Omega-3 fatty acids are another nutrient that people are concerned about. And many people wonder if they need fish for omega-3 fatty acids. And the answer is not necessarily. There are actually other omega-3 sources that we can rely on. So for alpha-linolenic acid, which is the parent omega-3 and the essential omega-3 fatty acids, we get alpha-linolenic acid from seeds like chia, flax, and hemp seeds, from walnuts, and from some novel sources like the ahi flower, perilla, or echium seed oils. And then we can get DHA and EPA from microalgae. These are tiny plants in the ocean. That's actually where fish get their EPA and DHA from as well. We're culturing it in clean environments, so we don't have to worry about all of the environmental contaminants and heavy metals in fish. From macroalgae, and eggs provide some DHA for lacto-ovo vegetarians. Moving on to calcium. How much do we need? Well, adults, women up to 50 and men up to 70 need, the RDA is 1,000 milligrams a day. It's 1,200 for women over 50 and men over 70. So how can we get enough calcium without dairy? Well, we need to eat sufficient calcium-rich plant foods. Some of the best sources of calcium are low oxalate greens. Chia seeds are an amazing source of calcium. Almonds, tahini, various beans. So let's take a look at how much vitamin D is in food. You get about 100 IUs from a cup of milk. You get about the same from a cup of non-dairy milk. You get a little bit less from fortified orange juice or cereal or other fortified foods that you probably don't want to be eating anyway. And then you get, similar amounts from egg yolks or liver, but you get considerably more from fish, about 70 to 600 IUs per 2.5 ounce serving. But the most concentrated source of vitamin D in the entire food supply is mushrooms exposed to UV light. They can provide between 350 and 1,110 IUs per cup. So vitamin B12, the RDA, is 2.4 micrograms per day. Sources, well, supplements are the most reliable sources for plant-based eaters. And what's recommended is 1,000 micrograms 2 to 3 times a week for adults, and 500 to 1,000 micrograms daily for seniors or people 65 plus. Secondly would be B12 fortified foods, if you use those or consume those. And for lacto-ovo vegetarians who are under the age of 50, they could also rely on animal products. Iron is a nutrient that I think is worth mentioning, because I think people will tend to fall short, especially people who are eating raw diets, who may not be consuming very many legumes, may fall short in protein, iron, and zinc. So how can we ensure sufficient iron on a plant-based diet? Well, first, we want to select iron-rich foods from each food group. So in the legume group, the best source of iron is actually lentils, and that's followed by beans and chickpeas and tofu and other legumes. So, and then nuts and seeds. Seeds are more concentrated than nuts. In the nut category, it would be almonds, Brazil nuts, cashews, and pine nuts. Grains, amaranth, teff, quinoa, wheat, and fortified grains, and then veggies and fruits. So zinc recommended intakes are between 8 and 11 milligrams for adults, less for women, a little more for men. To boost zinc, we want to include zinc-rich foods at each meal. We want to limit very high phytate foods, use food preparation techniques that reduce phytates, ensure sufficient calories. And if you're using a multivitamin mineral supplement, choose one that's a very high quality supplement with zinc. And so how much zinc is in food? Well, the richest sources are shown in red, and then the next richest in purple. But you can see adzuki beans and tofu at the top of the list here. Pumpkin seeds are one of the most concentrated sources of zinc in the plant sources of zinc. And finally, iodine. So a lot of people, again, don't realize that iodine deficiency results in cognitive impairment and is actually the #1 cause of preventable brain damage in the world. And mild deficiency in pregnant women can lower IQ points in their infants by 10 to 15. So how much do we need? About 150 micrograms. But people who eat plant-exclusive diets are at increased risk unless they're regular seaweed consumers. Iodine in seaweed does vary a lot, and regular moderate intakes can pretty easily exceed the upper limit. Generally, you want to avoid hijiki or use it very rarely because it is very high in arsenic. The take-home message of the presentation is well-planned plant-based diets do reduce the risk of chronic disease and support healthy weights. They're nutritionally adequate at every stage of life, and they are the most ecologically sustainable and compassionate ways of eating that exist today.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, Ben. As always, it's a pleasure.
I feel very honored to have been invited, and thank you all for being here. And I'm so grateful for what you're doing and all the knowledge, and you just continue to add to your repertoire.
As always, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.